excited because I read it, and I knew millions of people would be seeing this movie, and I'm thinking, okay, they're going to find out what he is. What do we call him? And he never say it. Then I realized, oh yeah, it didn't say it in the book either. Now actually, if you do some searching, you will find a spurious title, Symbologies, which I assure you academically does not exist. There's no such thing as symbology. But a Wikipedia entry gives us a clue as to what he really is. Turns out he's a semiotician, okay? And he specializes in semiotics. Wouldn't that have been nice if millions of people had seen the movie and mounting have been? Well, it wasn't meant to be. Now, I'm not going to get into the specifics of semiotics and iconography and how they interrelate and how they influence other disciplines right now, but I will have to discuss a Peircean philosophy here that will come in handy in looking at some of these works. Something that is depicted can either be an icon, in other words, it looks like something. You probably have these on your phone. It can indicate something, or it can be a symbol. It can represent something, usually an abstraction. We've been using this system for thousands of years. Go back 25,000 years, actually. And we see with the lasso Venus, it's one of the oldest depictions of a person holding an object. And it happens to be a horn, interestingly enough. Now, when we look at it, we say, okay, it looks like a horn, so we say this is an icon of a horn. But we can also go another step further and say it's a symbol. These animals, these bison, are powerful. So this can indicate power. We can even go one step further in what they call an emblem. We know that in the Gravettian, Perigordian, Magdalenian, and Ice Age periods, the eldest female of a village, a clan, a community was the person in charge. So this could represent a position of authority, their office, right? So it's possible. Going back to the icon, it looks kind of like the moon. Now, the moon doesn't really have this, get bigger over here and smaller here. But you know, the moon does get bigger and smaller. And if we look at the 13 notches that are detailed here, it gives us very possibly the lunar phases. That's one interpretation. Some folks see two more lines, a 1/3 and a 1/2 line, and they say that it's more complicated. It actually shows us the synodic and sidereal cycles. Well, that's not for our discussion today. The point being that this is one thing depicted, and it means many things. It's what we call a polysemy, okay? Depending on your level of interpretation. So for those who just came in, my name is Karl Kemm. I teach French horn at Del Mar College in Corpus Christi, Texas. I also instruct another course called Introduction to the Humanities, which always makes the question, what is that class? What does it cover? It covers what? I cover all these subjects, and even possibly a few more, and still manage to get my state-mandated curriculum in there. Now, it's iconography. It's one of the things that I do talk about periodically in the semester. I do not consider myself an iconographer, not properly, but I did study with who would be the preeminent world authority on music iconography, and that was Mary Rasmussen. She cataloged and viewed well over 12,000 images dealing with musical instruments. And I probably saw maybe 1,000 or 2,000 of them, but it was quite a feat. And her information is accessible through various organizations that deal with music iconography. Now, a word about iconography as a discipline to help you understand something. We are trained as historians, musicologists, right? And we've learned that denotation, if it is written down, that's fact, okay? That's proof right there. That validates it. If somebody wrote it down, there it is. Now, of course, we have to take into account sometimes people lie, they have an agenda or something like that. But once we work through that, the written word is validation. Now, if a historian walks into, say, the ruins of some camp and there's nothing written down, he's helpless. He can't say anything about it. There's nothing written down. It's dangerous to do that. You can't infer things. We've all learned that from our bibliography classes. All right. But an archaeologist, on the other hand, he looks in, he sees a fire pit with chicken bones. These people like to eat chickens, I can say that. right? He's inferring. Some sociologists, they infer. Iconographers infer. And you have the danger of being able to, you have to identify patterns, right, from all the images that you see and distinguish them from chance or coincidence. And that's quite tough. But we infer things all the time. Okay? We always infer things. You do. So, you get it, right? If you've seen soccer, any at all, you understand this. And the reason you understand it is because you've seen soccer games. But I'm willing to bet that you don't get the joke because you read an explanation of this. In fact, nobody wants to write an explanation. It would kill the humor, you see. So you're inferring something. Imagine somebody 1,000 years in the future looking at this. What would you say? Well, it's a cartoon format, so there's something funny about it. It's an authority figure in a suit. It's written in American 21st century English. I'm not sure what thief it is. It could be a dog or something written on the wall. You know what that is? But why are they doing that? And you read everything that's written, and you won't find an explanation for that. But if you watch a few dozen soccer games, you'll figure it out, okay? That's inferring, okay? So we do that all the time. Then after watching, you say, oh, okay, I get it, all right? So this is what iconographers do. Looking back, and we try to get immersed in the culture and figure out what was going on back then. We're lucky that sometimes stuff has been written down. Dante Alighieri, the Divine Comedy, he is sort of, I don't say scolding, but kind of helping out poets of his time, saying, hey, why aren't we doing what the artists have been doing, having levels of interpretation? The Romans were doing this, Ovid, Virgil, his hero. And he says, in the artworks, they have these literal, typological, chronological, analogical interpretations. We could be writing that in our poetry, and he does. So it's interesting, in that period of the Middle Ages, the writers were pretty much literal for the most part, not exploring this. So, literal, that shows you what's there, right? Depicted in words or in pictures. Typological, this is a concern in the Middle Ages. Old Testament versus New Testament. They saw the Old Testament as a deus ex machina, a foreshadowing of the New Testament. And they believed they were living in the New Testament themselves. Tropological, what's the moral of the story? And anagogical, does this tell us anything about the future? Okay? So this is what Dante's saying we should be writing about, because after all, the artists have been painting about this. So we can slightly infer that he's implying that the artwork has been doing this. Now the book, the Grand Medieval Bestiary, I got this when my wife gave it to me. She went to an art conference, and it had just been published in English. Fresh off the press, she does it. It was a home run for me because I love animals and I love the Middle Ages, so it was good. It's a bestiary, which is something I was somewhat familiar with. Bestiaries popped up in the Greek and Roman periods as collections about animals, describing them naturally. But in the Middle Ages, they were more concerned with morality. And so they saw animals as an expression of God's word. The reason they are on earth is so that we can see their characters are amplifications of our vices and our virtues. So by studying them, we study ourselves. We see various things at play there. And also, it helps us in some way understand reconciling Old Testament with New Testament. So bestiaries are these books that have stories of animals and pictures of them to help people understand various things dealing with medieval Christianity. Now, animals can carry a meaning, but not just one meaning. This is a little confusing because an animal does not necessarily mean one thing. It depends on the context. A good example, you see a snake under the feet of Mary, right? Especially if it has an apple. You think, naughty snake tempting Eve, right? It's bad, naughty snake. But what if you see Jesus dying on the cross and there's a snake at the feet there? Was that the devil? No. You see, especially in Celtic countries, Ireland, England, France, Portugal, and Spain, when you see the snake there, it sheds its skin. It's rebirth. It foreshadows resurrection. So the snake is a good thing, depending on the culture. So it's context that you have to look at. The authors were concerned about things that we are concerned about.